Stephen A. Smith didn't just react to Deion Sanders' bold proclamation about his son Shedeur starting for the Cleveland Browns this season. He lit the fuse on a conversation that's been bubbling under the surface for weeks. And when Stephen A. raises his voice, when he leans forward in that chair and hits you with the "I've been saying this for weeks," you know, we're not just in the realm of hot takes anymore. We're in football prophecy mode. Because Stephen A. didn't dismiss Deion's statement. He didn't call it premature. He didn't scoff at the audacity of a father predicting greatness for his son. He embraced it. He understood the weight of it, and he gave it the platform it deserved. Let's back up for 1 second.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Deion Sanders, NFL legend, college football culture shifter, and undisputed football tastemaker, says on camera that his son Shedeur Sanders is going to start for Cleveland Browns this season. Not in a few years. Not as a developmental project. This year, he wasn't pleading. He wasn't speculating. He was stating. And Stephen A., unlike some of the more cautious analysts who are hedging their bets with if and maybe, stood 10 toes down in support. Because you know what? Deion's earned the right to speak on quarterback development, and Stephen A. knows that. This isn't some stage dad trying to live vicariously through his son. This is prime time, a man who's seen the highest levels of football success and knows what greatness looks like. And he believes Shedeur's moment is coming sooner rather than later. So what does Stephen A. see that others don't? For starters, he sees urgency. Let's not sugarcoat it. The Browns may have won their first game of the season, but it was ugly. They scraped by the Packers with a last-minute field goal, carried by a defense that looked like it was auditioning for the 2000 Ravens reboot. And their offense? It looked like it was being operated with a rotary phone and a prayer. The quarterback play was uninspired at best. Conservative, predictable, and flat. There's no identity, no momentum, just survival. So when Stephen A. hears Deion say, "My son's going to start," it doesn't sound like wishful thinking. It sounds like common sense. Because here's the thing. Stephen A. has watched Shedeur Sanders develop in plain sight. This isn't some mystery man out of an FCS program. This is a quarterback who played under more pressure than most NFL rookies will ever face. Sold-out stadiums, ESPN cameras, weekly media scrutiny, all while being coached by one of the most demanding and effective football minds alive. And what did Shedeur do under all that spotlight? He balled out. He kept his poise. He made NFL-level throws, week after week. And he did it with a level of calm, charisma, and confidence that you can't teach. Stephen A. sees that. He knows that what separates great quarterbacks from guys who flash and fade isn't just arm strength or speed. It's the ability to lead under pressure, to command a huddle, to walk into a locker room full of grown men and say, "Follow me." And Shedeur, he's got it. So let's talk about what's really going on here. Because the real story isn't whether Shedeur is capable. It's whether the Browns are bold enough to pull the trigger. That's what Stephen A. is really reacting to. He's not making a case for Shedeur's future. He's calling out the Browns' present. He's challenging the status quo. He's saying, stop treating this kid like a prospect. He's a solution. And to be clear, he's not wrong. The Browns have a decision to make. Do they keep riding with a quarterback room that's sputtering, hoping that safe and steady will somehow turn into dynamic and dangerous? Or do they give the reins to a player who was literally built for this moment? Because make no mistake, Shedeur was built for this. Not just trained, not just taught, built, raised by a Hall of Famer, coached like a pro since high school, sharpened in the fire of national scrutiny. And now, sitting on an NFL sideline, watching a team struggle to move the chains while the league wonders, why is he still not playing? Stephen A. is basically saying what the fans are too afraid to yell. What are we doing here? You've got a shiny new sports car in the garage, and you're out here jogging to work. It's not that complicated. And yes, some of the other analysts are preaching patience. Let him learn behind a veteran. Let him develop slowly. Don't ruin the kid's confidence. Totally valid. But at some point, patience becomes procrastination, and development becomes delay. Stephen A. gets that. He's not saying throw Shedeur into a storm with no umbrella. He's saying the storm is already here, and it might be time to let your best guy handle it. Because here's what Stephen A. also knows: NFL windows are short. They don't wait for rookies to ripen on the bench. You either make the move or you fall behind. You either believe in your guy or you waste the season. This is the moment. Deion has declared it. Stephen A. has co-signed it. And now, the Browns have to live with it. Because let's be honest, if the offense keeps limping along and Shedeur continues to sit, it's not just going to reflect poorly on the current starter. It's going to shine a hot, unforgiving light on the entire coaching staff. And the longer the saga stretches, the more it becomes a story about fear. Fear of risk, fear of noise, fear of being wrong. But as Deion and Stephen A. both know, champions don't play scared. They bet on talent. They bet on belief. And they bet on players who rise when the lights are brightest. That's what Shedeur does. And when he finally gets that start, whether it's in Week 6, Week 10, or when desperation hits DEFCON 1, you better believe Stephen A. is going to be right back on TV the next morning, arms wide, smile wide, yelling, "I told y'all." Primetime knew what he was talking about. And he'll be right. Because while some are still debating if, others are already living in the when. So now it's your turn. Do you agree with Stephen A? Was Deion speaking the truth? Should Shedeur already be on that field? Or is patience still the right play? Let us know in the comments. And hit that subscribe button if you want to ride this roller coaster all season long. Because when Shedeur gets his shot, it won't just be a debut. It'll be a primetime performance. Deion Sanders didn't say what he said on accident. The man knows the power of timing. He knows the weight of his name. And he knew exactly what kind of wildfire he'd ignite by going on record and saying Shedeur Sanders, his son, his quarterback, his protege, will start for the Browns this season. That's not a hopeful dad manifesting greatness. That a man who's watched the NFL long enough to know when a team is teetering on the edge and about to get real desperate real fast. And while everyone else is hedging, towing the line with it's too soon, or he needs time to develop, you've got Stephen A. Smith going on national television, voice raised, eyes wide, and essentially saying, why the hell not? And really, why the hell not? Let's look at the facts. The Browns are one, whatever. Their lone win was a scrape by, barely their field goal over a Packers team that also looked like they had glue on their cleats. The defense, incredible. The offense, flammable. The quarterback play, best described as polite. You know it's bad when a win does nothing to quiet the fan base. Because this isn't about record. It's about trajectory. And the Browns' trajectory looks like a plane with one engine sputtering and the other held together with duct tape and denial. Now imagine being Shedeur Sanders. You're sitting there. You were drafted into the situation on the expectation that you'd be the guy. Maybe not week 1, but definitely this season. You're practicing like a starter. You're in the meetings. You're grinding. And every week, you watch the team stall offensively. You hear the analysts throwing shade, not at you, but at your decision to come to Cleveland in the first place. You hear the word manipulated toss around like you played the system. But did you? Or did you read the room? Because let's not forget, Shedeur had options. He could have easily ended up in a developmental situation behind a Pro Bowl veteran. He didn't want that. He wanted to compete. He wanted the pressure. He wanted the chance. Deion supported that. And now Stephen A. is saying the quiet part out loud. The Browns need to stop pretending they're too proud to pivot. This isn't about tradition. This isn't about patience. This is about urgency. Because here's what everyone keeps missing. Shedeur Sanders isn't some late-round maybe with a rocket arm and no football IQ. He's been playing pro-style offense since high school. He's grown up in NFL locker rooms. He knows how to manage pressure, how to study film, how to lead. And more importantly, he's ready. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty that the Stephen A.'s of the world love to remind you about the mentorship path. You've heard it before. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Favre. Mahomes learned from Alex Smith. Lamar didn't start week 1. Give him time. Don't rush the process. But here's the problem with that logic. None of those teams were playing like the Browns are now. The Chiefs didn't need Mahomes right away. They had a playoff-caliber team humming with Alex Smith. The Packers? Favre was still Brett freaking Favre. And Lamar? The Ravens had a system. But the Browns? They're asking fans to be patient while actively wasting snaps. They're fielding an offense that looks allergic to the red zone. They're throwing checkdowns on 3RD, and 9 like that's a winning formula. You think Shedeur is going to sit there all season watching that? You think Deion's going to stay quiet? Let's not pretend this is just about talent anymore. This is political. There's a quiet tug-of-war happening inside that Browns building, and it's the classic front office versus coaching staff standoff. The front office sees what Shedeur could be. The owner sees the buzz, the jersey sales, the media traction. And Kevin Stefanski, he sees risk. Because the minute you put Shedeur out there, you change the story. And if he plays well, you validate the draft decision, sure, but you also throw shade on your previous QB choices. You shift momentum. You reset expectations. And coaches don't like moving targets. But that's the thing. Great organizations lean into those shifts. They adjust. They adapt. They bet on upside. The Browns? They're dragging their feet and hoping their defense can carry them while they avoid controversy. Spoiler alert, controversy's already here. The moment Deion spoke and Stephen A. echoed him, the decision stopped being if Shedeur will start. It became when. And every week that passes without that start, the heat intensifies. Look, no one's saying throw him in blind. No one's saying ignore protection schemes or simplify the playbook. But if you're going to waste games trying to wait for the right moment, you're going to find yourself 2-6 with a locker room full of guys whispering, why aren't we trying a rookie? Because here's the part we don't talk about enough. Players know. Players see who's balling in practice. They know who has command. They know when a guy is it. And Shedeur, he's got that it factor. He's not just ready to start. He's ready to lead. And if Cleveland doesn't figure that out quickly, they're going to lose more than games. They're going to lose buy-in. They're going to lose the momentum of having one of the most talked about young QBs in football sitting right there, just waiting for his moment. And when he finally gets that chance, oh, you better believe Stephen A. is going to be insufferable in the best way because he called it. Deion called it. And you probably saw it too. So let's stop pretending this is complicated. Start Shedeur Sanders. Give him the reps. Let him take the hits. Let him make mistakes, because he'll learn fast. And when he shines, and he will, you look back at this moment as a turning point. The moment the Browns stopped playing scared. The moment they stopped overthinking. The moment they bet on prime time's prophecy. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about narrative control, and the Browns are losing it fast. Think about how wild this is. Deion Sanders, an NFL Hall of Famer, the architect of one of college football's most talked about transformations, just publicly guaranteed his son will start this season. Not, he hopes, or maybe next year he will. And then you have Stephen A. Smith, loud, theatrical, but almost always grounded in reality when it comes to big-picture football calls, backing that claim without hesitation. When Stephen A. is more confident in your rookie quarterback than your actual coaching staff. That's a headline in itself. But let's zoom in on why this moment matters so much. The Cleveland Browns are not a team that can afford to waste time figuring things out. They're in one of the most competitive divisions in football. Every other team in the AFC North has either a franchise quarterback or an identity. The Browns? They're somewhere between defensive powerhouse and offensive puzzle with 3 missing pieces. And in that kind of environment, the last thing you can afford is indecision at QB. The current quarterback situation, whoever's taking snaps, isn't giving the Browns fans hope. It's giving them flashbacks. It's giving them deja vu. We've seen this story before. A team with a great defense and no spark under center. It doesn't end in playoff wins. It ends in what if. So Deion's declaration? It wasn't a provocation. It was a wake-up call. He's not just a dad. He's a football strategist, and he knows how narratives work. He knows if you let your quarterback sit too long in a flailing system, the momentum turns against him, even before he touches the field. And Shedeur is too smart for that. You think this kid doesn't hear what people are saying? That he manipulated the draft process? That he wanted to pick his team and skip the waiting line? Guess what? He did, and he should have. Because what's the alternative? Sitting behind someone who's clearly not the long-term answer just to prove that you're humble? Taking reps in garbage time instead of getting a real chance to lead? The NFL is full of guys who waited politely and never got their shot. Shedeur knows his window. He knows his timeline. And if the Browns aren't careful, he's going to outgrow this moment before they even give it to him. Let's talk about fan sentiment for a second. You go to a Browns game right now and listen to what happens after 3 straight punts, or a red zone stall, or a pick. You'll hear it. That slow, building chant from the crowd that starts as a murmur and ends up echoing across social media. Put in Shedeur. It's not just wishful thinking anymore. It's a demand. And every week the Browns don't act on it, the pressure gets louder, the leash gets shorter, the excuses get thinner. Even players have to be wondering, what do we have to lose? Let's also not pretend Shedeur is some raw talent who needs to be fixed before he sees a field. He's polished, poised, built for the moment, and he's played under more media heat than 90% of the league's quarterbacks did in college. You think the Cleveland press corps intimidates him? He spent a year being the face of college football controversy every single Saturday. He's done post-game interviews after wins, losses, blowouts, and buzzer beaters. And he always handles it with poise. So this idea that Shedeur needs to sit and learn is just the league's old guard trying to apply an outdated rulebook to a new era of quarterbacks. The Josh Allens and Jalen Hurts of the world, they didn't wait around politely. They struggled early and figured out on the field. Mahomes did sit, yes, but behind a Pro Bowl QB with playoff experience. Not some placeholder, hoping to not lose the game. And this is where Stephen A. really nails it, because he's not just hyping up Deion's quote for airtime. He's recognizing what so many franchises miss. The window for greatness doesn't stay open long. You either step through it or watch someone else take the spotlight. That's what's at stake here. If the Browns don't make a decision soon, they risk turning Shedeur's arrival into a missed opportunity. And the longer they hesitate, the more pressure they place on themselves, not just from fans and media, but from within their own locker room. And look, we all know how this movie ends if they don't act. Shedeur gets his chance late in the season when the playoffs are already out of reach. He shows flashes, maybe wins a couple games. Then the team scrambles to build around him in a rush, too late to do it properly, and the cycle starts over. But if they play this right, if they start him now, surround him with support, let him learn on the job, suddenly you got a spark, a shift, a reason for hope. And if he struggles, fine, let him struggle. Let him throw a pick. Let him take a sack. That's part of the process. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If you're going to be bad, you might as well be bad while building something. That's the real logic. Not fear. Not status quo. Not wait and see. Shedeur Sanders is a franchise investment. You don't put $1 million stock in the drawer and forget about it. You get in the game, let it earn interest, and watch it grow. And if Deion's sure, and Stephen A is sure, and even you, deep down, are starting to feel sure, then what are we waiting for? So here's the bottom line. Deion's not crazy. Stephen A isn't reckless. And Shedeur Sanders isn't too early. This isn't just a quarterback story. This is the turning point of a franchise. This is the opportunity to rewrite Cleveland's future in real time. And the Browns? They're either going to seize that moment or sit back and watch someone else take it. Who are the Cleveland Browns? Are they the franchise that leans into bold moves, capitalizes on momentum, and gives the city something to believe in? Or are they the same team that plays it safe, delays the inevitable, and lets another potential star fade quietly on the bench? Because when Shedeur Sanders finally takes the field, and he will, it won't just be about yards and touchdowns. It'll be about proving a point, that he belongs, that he's been ready, and that the people who said he needed to wait his turn just didn't get it. Think about the stakes. This isn't just about Deion speaking up as a father. This is Coach Prime, a man who's built a career on seeing what others miss. A man who took a 1-11 Colorado team and turned it into the most watched program in college football overnight. He doesn't speak just to be heard. He speaks when he sees a moment, and he saw it in Cleveland. And Stephen A? Say what you want about the volume of his takes, but the man knows when a wave is coming. And right now, the Shedeur Sanders wave is building. It's not just a ripple. It's a rising tide that could shift the entire Brown season. So let's stop pretending like this is controversial. Let's stop acting like starting Shedeur is some wild gamble. You know what's risky? Doing nothing. Letting the season drift. Wasting locker room morale. Wasting fan energy. Wasting talent. If anything, Shedeur isn't a gamble. He's the reset button. He's the move that lets you rewrite the narrative before it writes you off. And don't underestimate the power of story. Sports are driven by it. This isn't just football, it's theater. It's legacy. It's personal. You start Shedeur, and suddenly every Browns game matters. Every drive becomes must-watch TV. Every touchdown isn't just 6 points. It's a message. And for the fans, for the ones who've been dragged through seasons of false hope and quarterback roulette, starting Shedeur isn't about stats. It's about belief. So yeah, Deion said what he said. Stephen A. backed it without flinching, and the world is watching. The question now is, will the Browns answer? Because the moment's coming. The drumbeat is getting louder. And when Shedeur finally walks out of that tunnel, helmet on, eyes locked in, crowd losing its mind, that's not just a debut. That's a declaration. Cleveland, it's time. If you're riding the Shedeur train, tap that subscribe and drop your thoughts below. Should the Browns pull the trigger now, or wait and risk losing the moment? Because this isn't just football. This is history in motion.